Happy Mother's Day from me to all our women. It's a real privilege to be here, and it is so wonderful to be back. I have missed you all so much. Thank you for all the messages I got while I was away. It was a really challenging time. People have been asking me, did you enjoy it? I don't know if enjoy is the word, Faith. No, Faith came with me last time. Kieran, enjoy? No, not the word. but it was really good. It was really good in a deep kind of way. So I'm really glad I went. Thank you for your support in that. And it is super good to be back. So I just wanted to start by thanking all the women at Lighthouse for the role models that you are, to each other, to those younger than you, thank you for the encouragers that you are. I have been encouraged, looking around now, by all of you at some point over the last, do you know how long we've been here, Trev? We're not going to say a long time. And for being comforters. Those three qualities stood out for me while I was thinking about the women at Lighthouse. Just really good role models, encouragers and comforters. So thank you to each and every one of you. So at Children's Church, I was going to wear my cape, but then it didn't match my dress, so I didn't put it on. But I'm sorry. Children's Church this year, we are looking at heroes versus villains. That's the theme for the year. And it's been quite fun to take a Bible story and tell the story from the villain's point of view. So it's just been a little bit creative. But so today I thought I would carry on in that vein, since that's where my head is at. So we're going to look at women as heroes today. We'll leave the villains out. We'll just look at the heroes today. So obviously, being Mother's Day, I want to speak to the moms, but I want to speak to all women, because we all mother someone or something, whether it's your pot plants or your puppy or your friend's children or your niece or nephew or your own children. There are lots of things to mother, and we naturally mother. So I'm going to speak to all of you, and hopefully we'll encourage the men a little bit as we go along too. So what makes a mom a hero? I got my undercover agents to do some research while I was away on what your children think makes you a hero and why they love you. So because you are kind, you give them time and you make time for them. When they do something wrong, you don't hold a grudge. I thought that was quite cool. Your children feel like you don't hold a grudge. That is very cool, because sometimes it's difficult to just let it go. That we are loving, they appreciate that. My mom makes me feel better. She makes me feel safe. One little girl spoke about how when things are getting hectic, it feels like there are all these waves coming crashing on me, and my mom just makes me feel safe and I'm okay here. My mom helps me and she protects me. So to be a hero mom, you need to be a hero woman. We can all do that. The Bible, if we go to Proverbs 31, we all go, oh my word, I just can't be Proverbs 31 woman. But we actually can, because if you read through it, it's about a woman who's doing her best. That's what it is. Yes, if you want to try and do everything all at once, it is a little overwhelming. But if you just take it little by little, like maybe take a month and read one verse a day and just go through it, because it's really encouraging. She's doing the very best she can with what she has. But I'm not going to speak on Proverbs 31. I am going to speak on the story of Abigail. But the three qualities that I've chosen to speak on, the one is a hero is courageous, a hero is wise, and a hero is a peace seeker. So the story of Abigail. So this is now during David's time. The prophet Samuel had just died, and David and his men moved down towards the desert. And nearby lived a man called Nabal, or Nabal. I don't know how do you say Nabal? Okay, for today it's Nabal, unless I change it halfway through. But then you know who I'm talking about, okay? He was a very rich man. He had lots of sheep and cattle, and he was very, very wealthy. And he lived nearby where David was. But he was a very proud, selfish, grumpy, miserable man. He was married to Abigail, poor Abigail. She was a beautiful, intelligent woman. And they lived very well with all the wealth that Nabal had. And David and his men had protected Nabal's shepherds while they had been looking after their sheep in the fields nearby. Nothing of Nabal's men's things had gone missing. None of their sheep had been harmed. The men hadn't been harmed. They'd been well looked after. So it came near the time for sheep shearing season, which is normally done in the spring, and it's a time of abundance. There's lots of food. It's normally a time of feasting. There's celebration, abundance. So David sent a message to Nabal and said to his men, "Go to Nabal and tell him that I send my greetings, that I, David, say hello, and I bless everything that you have. I bless you, I bless your family, I bless your animals, I bless your land. May God bless you. Since it's a time of abundance and we looked after your men, please will you spare us some food from your feast, some food and supplies so that we can, have something to eat over this next little while." Well, Nabal, being a grumpy grouse that he was, angrily refused, and he said, "Who is David? Who is the son of Jesse? Who does he think he is coming in here? I don't have to give anything to him. Tell him no. I'm not interested, not giving him anything. I'm not giving him the food that I have prepared for my men." So the servant went back and told David what had happened, what Nabal had said, and David became very angry. Very, very angry. And he said to his men, he called 400 of his men, and he said, "Get your swords, we're going. We're going to go and teach Nabal a lesson. I've protected his men and all his stuff, and now this is how he treats me. This is it, we're going to sort him out." He was so angry, and he complained and moaned, and off they went. One of Nabal's servants rushed back to Abigail. He said, "Abigail, we've got a huge problem here. David and his men looked after us when we were in the fields, and all they've asked for is any excess that we have. And Nabal has said no, and David is so angry, he's coming with swords and 400 men, and we are in big trouble. We are in danger here." Abigail immediately grabbed some supplies, stocked up her donkeys with, so much food. There were 200 loaves of bread and 2 bottles of wine and 5 sheep ready to eat and 5 baskets of dried grapes, 200 fig leaves. You get the picture. It was a lot of food. And she loaded those on donkeys, and she got on a donkey, and off she went to meet David. When she got to where David was, she fell on her knees, and she said, "Let the sin be on me." She said, "Forgive me. Please don't take this out on my family, on Nabal. Don't hold a grudge against him. His name means foolish, and boy, is he foolish. So please forgive him. Don't hold this against him. Please accept this gift and forgive my sin," she said, "and the sin of my family. The Lord God will keep his promises and will make you the king of Israel. He will protect you from anyone who tries to do you harm." David says, "Thanks be to God who sent you to meet me here and interrupted me in my rage and my frustration. I'm so grateful for your wisdom. You prevented me from the guilt of shedding blood and killing Nabal and possibly even hurting you and all his men." So David took her gift and said to her, "Go home in peace. I have listened to you and I have done what you asked." Quite a story. It's not finished, there's more, but you're going to have to wait for the ending. So, heroes are courageous. I think Abigail was quite courageous, we can agree on that. But it's not, this kind of courageous is not the catching flying cars and stopping alien invasions and wearing capes and all that kind of courageous. This is the courageous of making righteous decisions, being righteous, living righteous lives. It might mean making a very difficult decision or a tough choice. This choice might be to do with your children. Perhaps there's something that a decision you need to make regarding your children that is just really, really hard. But you know you need to do the right thing. You know, I mean, we've all been there, done that. When your child, and mine's here, so I have to behave myself. But when your child, I don't. No, I don't have to behave myself with you because I get to get back to you today after all the stories you've told. But you know, when your child, you know you need to discipline your child or give them a certain guidance that you know is going to be painful. But you have to do it because it's the right thing. It's tough. It's tough being a parent. It's hard being a mom. Sometimes those choices are really, really difficult. Perhaps it means submitting to your husband when you don't agree with what he is choosing to do. Perhaps he feels you need to move to another city and you just really don't agree. But you submit to him and you do it out of submission to him. Perhaps it means covering for your husband like Abigail did. Perhaps it means stepping into the gap. You know, Nabal was grumpy and very disagreeable, and Abigail knew him. She wasn't surprised. It doesn't say Abigail couldn't believe what Nabal had said to David. It says she immediately sprung up and into action. So she knew what Nabal was like. She wasn't surprised, and she jumped straight into action to prevent this major bloodshed and sin on both sides, both of these men. I mean, not only was Nabal very rude, but in Middle Eastern hospitality, he was insulting David. In Middle Eastern hospitality, if people ask for, you give them food before they ask for food. I mean, Trev, when they came back from Lebanon, he just said it was just food and food. I can see Megan nodding and more food. So to say no was just a huge insult. David even says in the text, he says that Nabal has treated me with contempt. With contempt. David had even asked, by starting off by blessing Nabal, he'd said, Shalom, may God bless everything of yours. Your home, your family, you, all your belongings. And to still turn around and say no. The insult was, contempt. It was just awful. David had also asked in a season of blessing. It wasn't like he went in the middle of winter where there was no supply and said, please, can you give us something? It was a time of abundance. It was feasting season. Like there was lots. There was plenty to go around. So the selfishness is just crazy. And Abigail prevented David from sinning too. Because if she hadn't intervened, David would and his men would have gone and killed Nabal and possibly all the men at his place too. So it could really have history would have been quite different. So we need to choose to stand for what we believe in and make that choice, make that tough decision and stand by it, be courageous in it. My mom-in-law was just an amazing woman. Oh boy, sorry. She, shortly after she got married, my father-in-law decided he wasn't going to go to church anymore. And she hit a crisis decision there. She had to choose, am I going to just stay home as well, because Sunday rise and start the fire early, be lekker, or is church important to me? Is this something that I really value, that I want to do? And she decided it was something she really needed to do and wanted to do. And so she did. She went to church every Sunday for years and years and years on her own, taking Lynn and Trev with. And Trevor said to me, and he and Lynn are so grateful for that, because who knows where they would have been without her making that choice and walking in that tough decision to do what she felt was the right thing to do. Heroes are wise. This makes you thirsty. Heroes are wise. Wisdom is applied knowledge. That means you need to have some knowledge to apply. And there seems to be a bit of a trend at the moment. We're very quick to Google something. We need the answer to whatever. And this, when I was away, my roommates and I got very carried away in ChatGPT. This is like, I've used it little bits, but oh my word, it's actually like quite an insane story that I don't know. I don't know if it scares me or if it excites me. I don't know. But it's easy to get information. It really is. But do we take that information and apply it to our lives so that we can become more wise? I feel like we don't. I feel like information is almost like throwaway because I can look it up again. I don't have to remember. I don't have to apply everything because, information just comes at us so fast it can be overwhelming. But I think there's such an importance in equipping ourselves with knowledge and then applying it to our lives so that we can become wise. So what would this look like? Perhaps some wives, we don't necessarily worry too much about the family finances. Our husband deals with that. He sorts everything out. We don't know necessarily how to buy electricity or, it just kind of gets taken care of, and that's amazing. Or how the pool pump works. I don't need to worry about that. I can see that is a case definitely around here. And so we don't worry about it. We don't need to know. But what happens if your husband goes away or he gets sick and he can't do it? Now the pool's green, there's no electricity, it's crisis point, now you've got to learn. So I think sometimes just for us to equip ourselves, just because you know how it works doesn't mean he can still do everything, but just to educate ourselves, learn how the family finances work so that we can step in and help. As parents, we can help our children by giving them good advice and not just reacting to them. When I was in De Dorings now, we popped through to Worcester on the Sunday morning, and the thing that stood out to me the most of being in that mall was how aggressive the parents were. Now, it was Sunday morning. Okay, I bunked church. I'm sorry. It was Sunday morning. It should be a slightly more relaxed day of the week. But these parents were all snapping at their children. It was just everywhere I looked. It was horrible. And the one situation that really struck me in this, I thought I would share with you, is a dad. I walked past and he was like, "I'm not buying that for you. That's nonsense." And she wanted some color fine liners. And she was like, "But Dad," and he was like, "No, that's it, come, we're going." And walked out the shop, and I was kind of a bit behind them. And then she was saying, "But Dad, I really needed them for my project. I need them for this, this, and this." And then he just went quiet. He didn't buy her the pens. But I just thought, perhaps if he had in the shop said, "Why do you need these specific ones? Is there perhaps, okay, they were expensive, perhaps there's another option. Can I get you different pens?" But it was just like, no, that's it. He didn't bother to find out the why. He didn't bother to find out why did she want that specific thing? What was going on in that situation? That's a very practical, but it speaks to understanding our children, knowing why they're reacting the way they are, why they're saying the things they're saying, what kind of world they're living in. It's changing so fast. And what are their friends doing at school? All those things, having those conversations, because the more we know, the more we can give good advice and not just react to a situation. Like Trev mentioned, engaging in their journey. Come along. I am going to focus it specifically at grade 4 to 7, but everyone is welcome. Come along and just let's have the conversation about managing anxiety and helping our children with that. There's Parenting from the Tree of Life, parenting course that Bernard Dave run. There are so many options and opportunities. Let's educate ourselves. As a wife, getting to know your husband and understanding him so that you can have a great marriage. Trev and I hadn't been married very long, and we had a misunderstanding, and when we got home, he had shut down completely. He was absolutely dead. He wouldn't talk to me. I thought my marriage was over. I really did. I remember sitting on the bed crying, thinking I'm going to have to pack my bags and go back to Cape Town. I've broken this. I don't know what's going on. It was terrible. And the more I went to him and I was like, what's the matter? What's going on? The more he was just shutting down. Afterwards, when he came back to me, we had a conversation and I realized that he had gone into his cave. Now, my dad never went into his cave, so I didn't know there was a cave. So can you imagine my shock? So my marriage wasn't over, but I learned that when Trev gets frustrated and he goes quiet on me, he is in his cave, and that's where he's processing. And the last thing I should do is stand at the door and go, "Can I bring you some tea? Are you done yet? Can I bring you, do you want anything?" No, but it took a bit of time for me to learn that. But now, he doesn't go into his cave often, but if he does, I know exactly what to do. I can react wisely instead of just constantly getting more frustrated and building into this huge thing. So let's take the opportunities that come our way to learn. Heroes are peace seekers. Abigail diffused the potential conflict. She brought peace to both Nabal and to David. Note that I said peace seekers and not peacemakers. There's a difference. We have a choice to seek peace. You can't always make peace in every situation, but you can seek peace in every situation. In our homes, at the Anderson household, we really value peace. Peace is probably not one of our number one values. So if you are having a bad day and you're feeling grumpy, or something went really wrong at work or school or whatever, and you come home and you're in a door-slamming kind of mood, you are welcome to have your tantrum and work it all out, but you do it in your room. You don't come and, share it with us and spoil my day too. You don't have the right to do that. You have the right to come and process it with me. You can come and we can talk about it, but you don't come and all over me. We don't do that. So apparently I slammed a door once. I have no recollection. Bern, you don't remember that? No, she doesn't either. I think Trev was smoking something that day. Definitely. Or maybe Trev slammed the door and then he blamed it on me. Maybe that's what happened. I don't. So, but you've heard it said many times that we should be thermostats and not thermometers. Thermometers read the temperature of the room, and if it's cool, the thermometer is going to stay cool. So if you come home you've been to the shops and you've got lots of stuff to carry in, and you walk in the door and your husband is grumpy and he's moaning at the kids, and the kids are just in the worst mood ever and they're crying and performing, and you walk in and you're like, oh my word, this is just horrible, and now you've entered into it, and now the whole family goes to bed with just this horrible, miserable day. Or you can be a thermostat. The thermostat has what I discovered it's called a bimetallic switch. It's two plates of metal that contract at different temperatures. And depending on the temperature, the one will contract, pulling the switch over, and it'll click over to either heat or cool the room. So if we walk into a room and we pick up the temperature, things are getting too hot around here, we need to bring a little bit of calm and cool. We can be that switch to click over and bring the calm, bring the peace. Just a calm word, maybe even sending everyone to their rooms so they can go and sort themselves out, whatever it might look like. But being a thermostat, set the temperature of your home. It's a choice, isn't it? How you react to your environment. I have been on a journey of seeking peace. You've all heard me speak about peace, I'm sure, because it's a huge thing in my life. I have had a battle with anxiety, and from time to time, he still rears his ugly head and has a go at me. But our God is a God of peace. And he gives us the gift of peace. And we can walk in peace. So I'll just share a little bit about my fight with anxiety. And I see anxiety as a thing that comes at me. It has Velcro paws. It climbs up and it sits. It takes a bit of work to get him off again. But I am not an anxious person. I do not have anxiety. I fight anxiety because anxiety is not God's plan for us. Disclaimer, I'm not speaking about people who need to be on medication because there's a chemical imbalance or depression or PTSD or anything like that. I'm sharing my journey with anxiety. So just that disclaimer. So I started... Sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and just with this, that pit of your stomach, my heart racing, just completely my mind racing, just feeling completely overwhelmed. Then it would start happening during the day. I'd just be doing something and I'd have this horrible feeling come over me. And I was fortunate to be in an environment where people had spoken about our battle and our authority that we have in Jesus. And so I started fighting against this anxiety. I found scriptures that speak about peace. I would pray the blood of Jesus against that anxiety. And at the very beginning, I didn't have much success. But Trev would come and pray with me. And because of his authority over me, we would keep praying until it went. Sometimes it would take a little bit of time, but we would persist until it went completely because it doesn't have the right to overwhelm me like that. So then I had victory. Then I would use the testimony and the blood of Jesus and the word of God against anxiety. And another thing that I did was taking thoughts captive. Sometimes it was just I didn't actually know why I felt like that, but sometimes it would be a thought that would get stuck in my head, and then it would grow, and then we go down the rabbit warren, and before we know where we are, it's the end of the world and calamity, and I'm never going to cope, and we're overwhelmed, and we become immobilized, we become paralyzed, we can't do anything. But God's given me a picture of a bird cage that sits in my head, and when a thought comes in and it disturbs me, I put it straight into the bird cage. I can see it. It can fly around, but it can't get out. And it can't get into my thoughts. It sits there. And then I look at it. And I go, right, what are you? Are you truth? Most times not. Okay, open the birdcage, out you go. Out of my head. I'm not going to think about you. If there's some truth to it, okay, so then what do I need to do with this thought? Is it a thought that I need to pray into? Is it a thought that I need to go and process through with someone? What do I do with the thought? But I don't allow thoughts to come into my head and just run riot, because that's when things just become too much and too overwhelming. I don't always get it right, but my birdcage really helps me a lot. So it starts with me. Be quick to apologize. Take your thoughts captive and strive to live in peace. In John 14, verse 27, it says, I am leaving you with a gift, peace of heart and mind. And the peace I give, the world cannot give. So don't be troubled or don't be afraid. It's a gift. You take a gift. You don't question a gift. You take a gift. When someone gives you something, thank you. Let's take this gift of peace. It's for our mind and heart. Those are the two things that are always affected if you battle with anxiety. It's always your heart, your emotions, and and then your mind, how you're thinking. So God knew that. The world can't give it, yet we keep looking at the world for answers, don't we? And don't be troubled. The Bible says more than 365 times, do not be afraid, do not be troubled, do not worry. I think God's saying something to us. So, a challenge to the woman. We often sense that discomfort, that disquiet first. There's the peace is eking away, the peace is gone, there's something off here. Don't take it all on yourself. Share it with your husband or share it with the people that you are around so that together you can restore that peace. And we need to be very aware that we are driven by emotion as women. So we need to keep that under in control as well, that we don't get carried away off on an emotional wave, but rather to keep the peace there. And then to the men, listen to the women when the women in your lives come and share with you. Trevor's always been amazing with that. If I come to him and I say, sure, I just feel like things that there's a little bit of like something doesn't feel quite right, and he'll be like, really? Okay. And then we'll either pray or talk or whatever. So I normally see it first. But he has never questioned me on it. He's always been like, okay, well, let's find out where it is and fix it. Don't put your wives in a position like Nabal put Abigail, a.k.a. don't be grumpy men. Because Abigail ended up doing what Nabal should have done in the first place. So back to our story. In Samuel. So it's 1 Samuel. I'm just going to read the last little bit here for you, 25, verse 6 to 40. It says, when Abigail went to Nabal, he was in the house holding a banquet like that of a king. He was in high spirits and very drunk. So she told him nothing until daybreak. Then in the morning, when Nabal was sober, his wife told him all these things, and his heart failed him. Some versions say he had a heart attack. And he became like a stone. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal, and he died. When David heard that Nabal was dead, he said, praise be to the Lord, who has upheld my cause against Nabal for treating me with contempt. He has kept his servant from doing wrong and has brought Nabal's wrongdoing down on his own head. Then David sent word to Abigail, asking her to become his wife. His servants went to Carmel and said to Abigail, David has sent us to take you to become his wife. And so she did. She quickly prepared. She actually bowed down and washed the servants' feet, and then she quickly prepared and she went with them to David. Different times. And I thought about that. I was like, you're... Hey? Okay, off with one, on to the next. I don't know. But anyway... David did, in one of the versions that I read, David said, who's going to look after Abigail now? So that was his heart, was to who was going to look after her now that her husband was dead? So that's where he took over. My time is running out. So Abigail didn't hide the truth. She spoke, she told Nabal what she had done. She was wise in when she told him. She didn't tell him when he was drunk. She waited until he was sober. It was a good time to tell him. And she trusted God to sort it out, and he did sort it out for her, rather. So just in conclusion, perhaps there are some tough decisions that you need to make. Perhaps there are some tough choices, some difficult things that you are facing. How are you doing in growing in wisdom? Are there things you need to go and learn and apply? How is your internal peace? How is your external peace? And men, don't put your wives in a position like Nabal put Abigail. Don't be grumpy. Work together.